sounding your truth. Heart marketing. This is my pearl, and I feel like it's interesting, like reading about the pearl sequence. It's kind of like it happens after everything else is dealt with, after everything else is journeyed through, meaning like starting with life's work through the activation sequence, through the Venus sequence, all the way through the pearl sequence, and then the pearl itself. It's funny because like holotropically, that's how Richard talks about gene keys, is like you can do work on any one of them and it will help your whole profile, or it will improve your whole genetic being. But with pearl sequence, it's like it does come with the pearl itself, it does come last. I found that interesting. So when I read through this, I'm like, okay, well, Melissa's my teacher for heart marketing.
Ah, it's the heart that teaches. I have nothing to do with it. Okay, continue.
Well, just that you've shown me to always return back to the heart and access it and have that be the focus and let that be the essence of transmission instead of it being mind or competition or creating something, whatever, however it seems best. It's not from the heart, because usually when it comes from the heart, it goes against our initial inclinations. What do you think?
So how's it going?
um, I think it's going well so far. The I think I think the part that's interesting for me is like the you don't have identification with feeling like a leader. And I think when you talked to me about this when you looked at my profile, it's this very reluctance that sets people up as leaders. And the mass consciousness will choose leaders not for their beliefs or policies, but for their style. And it's interesting to tie in this 31st gene key with style, which I think is eighth, um, only because, and this is what's really interesting, is he ties this really closely with language, the use and misuse and manipulation of language. And I find that as a writer, as identifying as a writer, and having this be my pearl, but then also having seven in my culture, which we can get into in the gift. I'm like, as far as I know, things are going well. But there's, of course, I think with heart marketing, like with being aligned with your heart, there's tests along the way. There's like these gates that are asking you, you can go the traditional route still, or you can bring the heart back into it, or bring the heart into this level and have it look differently.
Mm. So, okay, so let me ask you. May I ask questions? May I poke?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, cool. So, can you recognize your language and words coming from heart versus mind?
Mm,
And here, and I'm just gonna mute myself 5,000 million times while I'm asking all these questions. I'm gonna try to let you speak on this one because it is your pearl. There's so much to say about it. And I often wonder if it's your pearl and if it's collecting everything that you're doing in this lifetime, are you actually able to see it? Or is this something that somebody else sees more in you than you directly? But when I say, if you're speaking from, when you speak language from the heart versus from the mind, are you noticing the difference? First in feeling, second in the vocabulary, the dictionary that you use.
Mm. When I notice that, I can only think of like the clear distinction moments when it feels like either it's from the heart or like, or the other way to like think about it is I'm out of the way completely. And when that happens, um, there's a distinct feeling of like lightness, like floating, of kind of not really being there fully, not really being in my body fully. And then the words sort of just happen. It's not really that they're different than I would use. I would say that they're pretty similar, but tend to come with more certainty and less like deliberation, less like deciding about which word is the right one to use or not.
Totally less complexity, more simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
And it often sounds, and if sounds or feels or transmits as there's no tail behind it. Like when you speak it, it's like almost like um, it's really hard to describe it, but
Mm.
when your heart speaks the words, they resonate differently. It's like almost like you hit the nail in the head. And when the mind speaks it, it questions it. The
Mm-hmm.
tonality is higher. You almost, with your statement, you question, is it the truth? So totally almost like it's not a confusion, it's just mix of everything. But when the heart comes in, it is able somehow to hold the dualities and paradoxes of both sides, and really doesn't really, like how he explains it very nicely. I was laughing because now I reread it again. Just 2 weeks ago I read Just a Gift and a CD for Your Pearl sequence. And now I read it and I was like, I can see this in you, because there's part of you that doesn't really care when it speaks. And as if, like you said, you step aside and something speaks through you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pure transmission. And when, not that you don't care, you're not there, but this is your, this, you have this key. And this is something that is showing up here and there in
Yeah.
oops, blips. And I witness it more and more frequently. And maybe because we're now like at the stage where we're comfortable in saying things that frightened us just a year ago, or there, but there's no fear behind it. It's almost like less fear. A good example would be last Sunday when we talked about the 30th, and I had the fear, and you're like, I don't give a shit, right? So bring it on. And but you said it in such a playful way that I thought about it for a long time. So you see, it resonated so much with me because you were like, almost like you were like, no, but I want to kind of have fun with it,
Mm-hmm.
and you went so excited about it, and I was like, how did you do it? And then I read this and I was like, that's how you do it. You do it because you're behind it is like this, like just air, almost like fluffed, not fluffed, but airy, spacious way of speaking through the heart that doesn't have a tail, that it's heavy or fearful or suspicious in tonality. It's like, yeah,
Mm. Yeah, the having a tail is a good way to put it. Um, I notice like the clearest way this happens is when usually it's like right before bed, I'm hanging out with Carly and we're just talking. And then at some point it'll be like it's like that stage between sleep and awake starts to blur a little bit. There's more gray. And in that space, whatever comes through or whatever comes out, I'm like, if you know, typically I'm watching Carly. I'm like paying attention to how she's responding. Is she like constricting based on what I said, or is she getting combative, or did she go silent? And in this sort of space, I'm like, it's almost just like watching. And what I see is, okay, she's constricting. That message was challenging for her. And then usually what comes through is like the next message, either to pull her out of that or get her to see what I see or to, but it's not like this strategy around manipulating or trying to get her to do anything. It's just, I don't know. It's interesting how the more I tap into this, the less it feels like I have any sort of control over it, and that might be why you're seeing it more, because and maybe why I'm allowing it to be more is because I care less about control now than I did in the beginning. I care less about like my image or how someone might perceive me or how you might think about me, because to be honest with you, in the beginning, I very much cared and I really wanted to continue doing podcasts with you, so I wanted to be impressive. I wanted to like show that I was a good speaker, that I was carrying my half of the conversation. And now I'm like, we've had enough moments of silence or staring at each other or in like a contemplation that goes beyond words to know it doesn't really matter what happens here. And we've released it so many times. It's like, okay, we're good. Nothing rides on this moment. And two, I would say, like in the transmission of the gene keys itself, we're going through. Usually in shadow, it's like much easier to have an opinion, state my side. Like think about how it works in the world, and then we get into gift, and then like usually late in gift or in city or in that transition between those two, all of a sudden I'm like, it doesn't I just let go, and I just don't care anymore.
And just out of curiosity, are you able to, do you understand the city?
For this one, yeah, I did.
This city?
Hmm.
Totally. Like you, because it's like clear. Because sometimes we read cities and we're like, what?
Yeah.
And this one, you understood it, right? So it was like clear, right?
Hmm. Yeah. This.
And let me, and I want to ask you,
Hmm.
oh, go ahead. I'm going to go back to your late night conclusions.
No, that was it. That was just kind of an explanation of when I feel it most clearly. But yeah, this city and shadow are very. It reminds me of a few of the ones we've had already, where they actually play off each other, and the temptation to label arrogance as negative or evil, and humility as being like the good or the sought after, is strong here. Like it's intuitive, and it's almost like ingrained in Western culture and even Eastern culture, probably more so in Eastern culture. So this is one of those ones where like it's a clear paradox, and it's a challenge of the ego and the mind's desire to control and and the ability to let go here. And I found that to be really interesting. And this is a good time maybe to pair in. I know you had a question, but I just want to throw this in. This ring, the codon ring, a ring of no return. I'm like, oh, what a great name. The pairing being 62.
Which I have, by the way.
Ah, where do you have it?
Mm-hmm. Attraction.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think about like, hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I was peeking at this
Precision.
62, and I'm like, I can't wait to get to this one. Um,
I had 62 and 63, but I found this interesting too. All right.
yeah, cool. Well, that'll be fun when we get there. Um,
in 2 years?
we've got some momentum now, so maybe in a year. Do you remember your question?
Yes. When you have these gaps
Hmm.
between wake and like lucid states, when you said that you feel most truthful to speak words that you're not really trying to use as a either manipulation or there's no intention or agenda with them. When you make these statements, when you watch Carly how she reacts to it, do you I'm curious, do you make statements related to generic, general, everybody, everything, or is it subjective, you, me type of statement?
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Is it objective or subjective?
It's more objective, more
Mhm.
generalized, and there's a sense of like there's a sense of when there's a gap between these words came through, and then now I'm reading her reaction. Um, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, she would react this way because you are speaking from like this space of, um, ah, you know, it's gonna sound arrogant, but it's like this is just how it is. It's a space of this is just the way things are, and forgetting for a second the ego of self and the ego of her, and then just using kind of like coming back down into it just to be aware of, oh, this would be triggering because it's a sensitive topic, because remember the trauma that she went through. So try. It's not even like, it's almost like I'm trying to put words into an experience that doesn't have any, right? And this is, the first subtitle here is the World Wide Web of Words. It's just like a tangled, in the shadow, it's a tangled mess. Trying to make sense of it.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
And why I asked, I was curious to see when speaking out of the heart, does the heart resonance or transmission of the words through the heart, does it actually pull out reaction of people?
Mhm.
Right? So it's like, you know how the mind invites the debate
Mhm.
and the mind invites the opposition and invites arrogance
Yeah.
and borderline aggression that can also be packed in niceness and like, but it's like it wants to engage with the opposition, it wants to debate and go back and forth, and we don't even need to prove each other wrong, but there's another way of thinking. It's like, this is my perspective, right? So it wants to engage in this battle
Mhm.
battle of the words, but the heart doesn't. And I'm having a really a realization that when heart speaks, it invites the silence for reflection.
Mhm.
It's very, very interesting. It's almost like the opposite from you has nothing to say, rather than, oh,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and often I get to a point of not really having it's like, okay, the objective stance has been stated, and what's left is usually silence. And it's taken me a while to go fully into that heart space and then allow it to come through and share. And then at some point you have to come back, or at least in my experience, I have to come back down to subjective experience in this body, and becoming more okay now with that silence after, instead of needing um, the attunement, like needing the integration or like, did that resonate with you? Like this desire for reflection instead of like now I'm much more comfortable to get to this point and say, okay, what you need is to go into your heart space. And this is what happened the other night is we kind of got into like money trauma, and then the money trauma is leading to feelings of pressure, and to release the pressure it's just about going into the heart. And if the manifestation's there, if the ability to access space is available, then you just are just trying to reach out more and access more feeling of what it is that feels good to you, more feeling of the abundance, more feeling of sharing in a way that reciprocates and helps people. And just, I was kind of guiding Carly through this. And then it was clear to me, like, she got what she needed, and she was like falling asleep. And then I just turned off my book light because I was about to read, but when we get in a conversation, and I just laid there and I fell asleep. And before, like, I don't know, a couple months to years ago, I would have left that state and been like, it's almost like, it's almost like when you have great sex with someone and they go, "How was it for you?" And like just the question, you're like, I mean, we could have just left it, just keep, because you want to experience the full roller coaster, and then when you have that break,
It's funny. But now you're just good with marinating in it.
yeah, able to,
I love to
mhm,
go ahead. Able to what?
just able to release um, the pressure. I can't think of the most obvious word that like is my trauma, which is hilarious that I can't think of it right now. It's not affirmation, but like acknowledgement, just seeking approval, whatever you want to call it.
You mean uh, from college?
Yeah, from anybody, from the world.
Mm-mm. Wait, so let's close this. But you're saying now you got to a state where you no longer seek that, you no longer need that. You are good and comfortable in sitting with just the heart expressions
Hmm.
that invite silence that you are bathing in.
Hmm.
Is that, am I getting this right?
Yes. Hmm.
Wow. Well, that's beautiful and very healthy. And I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm really proud. And I'm also really proud that you're kind of more chilling in a gift and CD in 31 already.
Hmm.
And, that, and here I'm going to say in the beginning of our Jinkies, and this is a year and a half later, I'm going to continue repeating it because it's a massive work. Well, shout out to Melissa. Hello, if you're listening to this podcast. We just exchanged texts the other day, and she had asked me a question about training. You and I were talking about, which is interesting because you just brought up that idea to do the actual training so we can see where this is going to take. And then it took me a minute to start. I had this urge to want to write her a text of where we started and how this entire thing became it. And as I was writing it, I was just like, wow, can you believe it? We're halfway through it. Our original idea was to just rock it for a year, and it'll end up being 3 years if we're halfway through it right now. And then where we started in the beginning was very much both of us, not only you, but both of us not knowing first what we're doing, being so self-conscious about, is this good enough? It's like, are we talking making sense at all? And then we stopped identifying with it, which was great agreement. and even speaking of it as ours. So it's not ours. And then just because we didn't identify with it, something happened when we were able to separate our own selves, but yet contribute to it together from the subjective experience, completely relatable as we grew through the keys. And I was able to explain similar things to her. I was like, oh my God, this is where we started. And we were debating which one to start talking. But as I was writing this text to her, you can clearly see that both of us operated in many of the shadow frequencies. We were trying to use the words to sound smart,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know that you challenged me a lot in the beginning, with like, do you really, can I just like, hold on, can you go back? I want to poke and I want to poke and I want to poke. And fast forward, even now I see that even if it doesn't make sense to you, you're still just accepting it. Even if it doesn't make total sense to me, what you're saying, it's like I'm still able to actually take it and accept it without changing a bit of it anymore, without questioning it. Rather, if you notice, our questions are now even penetrating even more for you to open up about it. And almost like they go directly to the thing for you to crack up a little bit even more,
Mm.
so that way you can elaborate more about it or experience it as you talk, or and me as well. So I just want to note that I think the progress is obvious, and I don't I feel that we're speaking more from the heart now than we were in the beginning of this whole thing.
Mm. It's
See, and somehow I didn't even cough once because it spoke from the heart.
yeah, right. It's beautiful observation. I do notice it with um the great interviewers in the world that they've developed this ability, and I don't know if it's like a roundabout way to do it, but they get enough feedback, training, coaching about their interviewing, and they're recording it so they get all of this information to then improve on. But what I noticed is exactly what you pointed to, is they're so able to ask a question to someone that, like, you kind of know these people because you follow them and you see how they act on social media, right? That clearly would kind of be abrasive to most people. Like, it's a strong stance either here or here, or up here or down here. And the greatest interviewers, they meet them where they're at for the question, and they'll stay there to get more out of them. Then they'll come back to the center point to transition to a different topic, and then meet them where they're at, and then come back to the center point. And instead, what I noticed, with us, and then with people that are just starting out with podcasting, it's a skill, right? There's that element too. Is, okay, so let me get this straight. You're over here, and I'm over here. So why do you view it that way? And then it's just this gap not being closed. And so, like, the difference is the greatest interviewers are able to get closer and closer to closing the gap. And there's a level of, like, you just let go of whatever the ego is telling, whatever the story of what I believe and you believe is. In this moment, the best podcast, the best interview is going to be one that engages you where you're at and gets you to fully express from your heart.
Totally, totally. And I think people are ready now to meet with the heart,
Mm-hmm.
to be met on a heart level.
Mm-hmm.
Because who wants to sit there and debate wrongs and rights? Not me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to debate. It's gonna take me 3 hours to debate you and really oppose everything you just said and say, hey, same thing with the AI, right? We got in it the other day, and I was like, okay, perfect, but you're totally different point of view, and I love it. Not I love it because it is supposed to be your point of view, and because I don't mind it, I don't hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind it. It's your way of approaching, your way of, right, but you're able to kind of wave it to it and learning how to appreciate it as a different way. And what he touches based on in CD level is like, and I really highlighted it because I really loved it. I was like, bam, baby, yes. And he goes, I was so excited about it. And it goes, ultimately, where did he say? Oh, that how everything is, oh, it's actually the gift. So the collective is beginning to lead itself. And no more, so it's an era in which individual leadership is declining.
Mm.
While something we have never seen before is also occurring, the collective is beginning to lead itself. So to me, it's like, it doesn't, one rule does not apply to everybody, to masses any longer. What applies is your authentic way, your truth deep down in your heart, your words spoken that I cannot, though I disagree, I don't disagree here. I
Right.
genuinely think I feel it's the right thing to do for you. And as such, I can accept it wholeheartedly without trying to change it a second, a minute, because I'm able to accept your truth when you give it as your truth.
Mm.
And as such, it's going to change, it's going to adapt, it's going to evolve. It's not going to be the same tomorrow or in a year from now.
Mm.
So that is a big deal, big deal.
Yeah. And you know what came up with this one? Well, in our talk about AI, and like it's a topic that is mirrored in the collective, and what came up for me is the shadow of division, and it's always been present, right? But it seems like we're being asked to find a way through as a collective, and it also talks about leadership in this shadow because the gift is guidance. So, and having this as my sphere of culture, um, it's interesting because someone at a victim level of consciousness will be drawn to someone who further strengthens that same energy frequency. So the temptation when we're engaging with someone that has a different opinion from us is to use that difference and that division to solidify further our level of victimization, which just speaks to the gap. And instead, what you're saying is, I might disagree here, but it's just a stage, or it's just like what you're in isn't concrete. And that's the temptation of concepts, symbols, and beliefs is they change. And so in your heart, you're like, can I just accept Eric in his heart and allow it to be whatever it is, knowing that it's going to change, whether I play a part in that and trying to like elicit the change, like pull it out of you, or I just release and let go. And often, as we know, for personal relationships, the more we're able to let go, the more that we inspire, or maybe not inspire, give space for change to happen in this ego logical realm where the heart can do its work. And it's like ultimately all we're doing here, we're forming concepts and beliefs and we're challenging them, or we're pitting them up against experiences of life, and we're seeing how much of life we can experience according to the values, beliefs, concepts, and then being asked at critical moments through life to drop back to the heart and release these attachments, detach, which is a gift, and then go through another round of that same process again. So it's quite interesting how initially when I felt like, oh, like Melissa's kind of having an issue here with either my use of AI or my view of AI, or if this is actually a threat or not, or how we should respond, like how we should lead others to respond in this conversation. And I was just chatting to Carly about it, and I'm like, I don't. It's interesting because like I don't think we actually disagree on the major points. I think we just get caught up in the details that don't matter, and we actually don't have full information about what's actually happening right now anyway. Like, to believe that we as consumers of AI, which is
So
what we are, have the full scope of what we're participating in is pretty laughable. I'm sure it's, you know, we can get into that, but the point being, when we,
are you uncomfortable right now?
no.
Okay, because you're so blurry, I can't really see. I can't read your face, but I think we need to talk about this. I love it. Let's continue.
What do you mean? What would you like to talk about?
So far, I'm remembering what I wanted to ask. Well, first, you said a really good point, which is like when you accept the other without trying to change their ways, doesn't matter where it comes from, heart, mind, it's just their way. I think you allow the space. You said you allow the space for whatever that needs to happen to happen. And that is massive. It's huge and it's a big deal. And allowing the space. So let's say we argue on the mental level, which is it needs opposition, it needs the debate, it needs politics, it needs this, right? War. This is where we get caught up in our relating to another person, and this is where the tension and confusion and conflict comes in, right? On a mind level. But when we debate on the heart level, here's another layer. There's no debate actually, and heart doesn't know how to debate. It doesn't. Heart sits in the truth, and the truth is authentic to the life of experience of the pile of experiences that you had as an individual, unique you,
Mm.
and that I had as an individual, unique me. But really, it's simple. It feels simple when it's the matter of the heart, because there's no confusion. At the end of the day, we either blend or we don't. We either support each other or we don't, and it's very clear and it's clean. It's not complex and it's not messy
Mm.
like in the mind. And you're absolutely right when you say when the heart genuinely wants to allow space for itself to feel, to to almost like land for whatever that is happening in the field of that person to land into the heart. And heart feels it wants to be to receive the gift of life and the gift of expression and the gift of the present moment and the gift of everything, right? So it's almost like wants to land pain, heartbreaks, love, acceptance, you name it. It's just like it almost like well likes to take it in and to take it in slowly and patiently.
Mm.
And the mind is different things. So when we exchanged the voice messages many times, and I really didn't mean um, nothing against the AI specifically
Mm.
for you, because I actually think that you have a way to present it differently from what I see in the world,
Mm.
right? So because of your artistic parts, because of your writing skills, because of your storytelling, that it's different. And I literally watch your shorts and I'm like, they're catchy, but I have this like, but I know you differently. I know the depth of you, right? So I am in many ways attached to your heart from my heart.
Mm. Mm.
And my heart is craving this like land, nice, slow, patient,
Yeah.
steady
Mm.
teachings and learnings, right? So it's very hard to break the bridge between for the heart, for the technological consumption of like hearts speaking, because it's like you're almost putting the heart that beats like an organ in a wall of brick wall, and it's like how do I get through it, how I'm seeking to get through it, right? But that is just a subjective, again, projection.
Mm.
And to be able to let you do that without changing a bit of it is allowing you, like you said, space to develop your style, to develop it and find it, because I know deep down that you cannot do it without the heart.
Mm.
It has to come out of your heart. And you use both tools for expression. So I think they're actually really cool. I just cannot get to that level, right? And looking at your keys and my keys, we have total different way of approaching a whole giving or whole contribution. And I can only, I can only support it 100% wholeheartedly because it comes out as joy rather than ooh the AI. Because that's I it's not my role for you for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So
And yeah, the thing that came up when you brought that point up is like there's probably only 3 people in the world who have seen me at where you've seen me, right? Like it's like you, Carly, and maybe one other person. So consider yourself, yeah, consider, yeah. um, and sure, I aspire to be able to jump on in front of a camera and get there, right? But there's an element of I'm also, like you said, I'm also discovering the voice that can show up and meet people where they're at without jumping so far into my heart. Because there's also like maybe it's a vulnerability thing where I don't want to get myself hurt, right? So there's that layer of protection. There's all sorts of potential parts that are working here. And like you said, I'm honoring your reflection and saying to myself, like, you're doing good on the path that you're on, and of course it's going to change, and of course my style is going to change. But just being like, it's almost like saying for someone else, like if the temptation is in hindsight, you shouldn't go down that path because I went down that path and you don't need to. It's a mistake. But we can't share experiences just through words, right? It doesn't do the justice. So at some point in the heart, it
mm,
actually opens up the ability to give space to the things that can't be spoken, which I think is huge.
totally. And I almost wonder, is the door to the heart through vulnerability?
Yeah, totally. And
And it's like you heard of a word. Go ahead.
I'm curious what you're gonna say here. I think it'll guide me.
Like the word pendulate,
Yeah.
where you tap into it and then you tap out of it. You're tapping and then you're tapping out. It's like, you know, living, you can't be in one state all the time,
Hmm.
right? So we kind of pendulate through these states and the mind and the heart, and we're kind of tapping the vulnerability and then we're exiting into the strength and finding our power and then leaning onto someone and then leaning on ourselves only. So the pendulation, I think it's the way we cope with the um, it reminds me on this story where the child, you have 3 children, when you let them go and roam around, like your newest one, right? The youngest one will now go around and try to explore with so much fear, but it can only go to that much. And it runs back home to make sure you're there. And then the next time it goes out to explore, it goes a little bit further and then it runs back home to make sure you're there, right? So it's actually how it's learning how to let go and explore the environment. So it's tapping out there further to see how far is the limit and it's coming back home where it's safety, right? So that pendulation into the vulnerability and out is like life. I think we're going to do that for the rest of our lives, really,
Mm.
because there's so much in vulnerability that we're afraid of. And I just wrote this morning because I was
I love it.
did coincidental, no, but it's like wow, it's the guest that is always ours. Knocks on the door and we say wrong address, lady, and it knocks so nicely, and we yet don't see it's ours. And I had such a great inspiration about it, and I was like, oh my God, it's actually we need it, we need it, we need it, and it has a lots of gifts out there.
Mm.
We just need to learn how to kind of take the basket. Pendulate. Take just one thing, one strawberry from it, and leave the rest
Hmm.
for later.
Hmm.
It's beautiful.
I love that. And what it made me think of is a mirror of that, because I was just thinking about my my oldest now is going and helping the owner of the house with yard work up on the hill, and it's far enough up there where, well, he's a Virgo, right? So he loves working. He's actually been so helpful as a 5-year-old that he actually paid him this last time.
Wow.
He gave him a $20 bill.
He's
He
five.
was so excited.
Love it.
And
His first money ever.
yeah, and um, he's so far away where I have to kind of hike up there to figure out if everything's okay. And then I know the owner is a 87-year-old Japanese man who's just hanging in, but he just shows up and he moves at his own speed and he does what he does. But he also has like a weed whacker, a chainsaw, a this, and I have my 5-year-old up there and I can't hear what's going on. I don't know what neighbors, if he's like sneaking off and doing whatever. So, in the same way that like my youngest will pendulate out and then like turn around and make sure that mommy and daddy are still around, I'm also it's like my kids are now pendulating out, and I'm because I have the anxiety of, oh, I should go check on them. How are they doing? Are they safe? And I have to be in that heart of like, it's okay. They'll come back to me instead of, right?
Yeah.
So that was it's a good mirror. It's fun to experience both right now too, to have my youngest who's 2 and my oldest who's almost 6. And I have the one who's constantly checking on me and I'm like, get off my lap, go play, go do this, go do this. And then my 5-year-old where I'm like, come back, come back, come back.
Because you're like that heart. And out there, the unknown is that vulnerability.
Yeah. Mm.
And you now act like a heart house for them, Faith is really, it's good to there. And guess what? We totally disregarded mind in all of this. It's like mind really is in the back seat when you play with the heart.
Mm.
I think this is yet to come. So, all of us, not actually not. It's not just for you and me. I think there's a lot of truth that people are discovering by tapping into the heart
Mm.
and just how it feels, how it's less complex and complicated. It's just very simple.
Mm.
And if I were to ask you what lives in your heart, what what is your heart seating? What is inside of your heart? What qualities?
Mm. Um, Timelessness, patience, graciousness, honor, humility. Like like the seeds of the cities, really,
And where does the fear sit?
in the mind.
Totally. And like when you start breaking it so simply down, it's like, wow, my heart has such a good qualities. The love, the patience, the forgiveness, like slowness, like
Boundlessness.
acceptance.
Hmm.
Yeah, mine just puts us in trouble. Okay. Oh, and I wrote your name here all over the place. This Eric for the gift. Okay, watch this. Can I?
Yeah.
I'm excited
Hmm.
about this. What's funny? I'm reading and I was just like getting excited because I wanted to ask you the specific things. And then you know how he asked, it is only like it goes, and then you move to city and it goes, if you happen to be excited at the words coming out of 31st gift, what? And I was like, I'm also excited. And it goes like, watch what's gonna happen in the
Right.
city. Okay. I was genuinely excited. So it goes like this. Okay. No one understands the specifics of conditioning quite like 31st gift.
Mm.
This is where I think your massive strength is. This. You, my friend, see clear crystallization because you pop up some bombs out there left and right. You're like, you say the words and you just drop them as knowledge, as like, as you see, you zoom out and you're able to actually see. And when you do that, they're very short and they're very piercing, right? So no one understands the specific of the mind conditioning of the collective that we're in other than you. Do you feel this is true for you?
Do I feel like I'm the only one?
Well, only one in this room.
um, I can't speak for anyone else. I would say I have a, a decent understanding of it, but there's like, I just talked about this in my last video, which just came out. But there's the traps along the way. So the current trap that the current you asked me that question. It's just triggering this whole conversation about you're the one who sees. Now you're the one who's awake. Now you're the one that has the game figured out, right? It's another attachment. So it's like there's just like opportunities for more and more complexity, and actually you talk about simplicity, complexity, and the temptation of figuring out the patterns is that identification, attachment, and separation. Actually, that's what's happening. Is because I know and no one else that I know knows, and then when I look out in the world, no one else is talking about it the way I'm talking about it. Therefore, I am separate. Therefore, and then do I want to quantify that as being better or worse, right? And in that temptation to to like place myself somewhere in that journey, the reality is like this experience is I'm only using like my hands here because I don't know how to put it into words. It's just this happening, it's occurring, we're a part of it. We get trapped, we get attached at certain stages, and we learn to detach, come out of it. Much like the process of we have trauma and we learn to heal from. And so when you ask me that question, that I'm like, well, if I look at it in one level, I could say yes because I'm looking, and I don't think many people are looking. So from that standpoint, sure. But then there's like, okay, now am I getting attached to the identity that I'm like I am the leader because I have this ability to see, and I don't want that. It's almost like I just want to reject it because I know that my heart gets really quiet when I do attach to it.
That's so good. Spin doctor. And I can see how uncomfortable it gets when you kind of get put yourself into attached role of leader, and also how you're naturally, again, you have tendencies, let's say you have capacity, tendencies, and potential to actually lead in a very different way, that it's not, buying your leads to
Mm.
get to that
Mm-hmm.
point, right? So you're not buying your diploma, you're already graduating somehow, right? So, and I think this is what other people can see in you rather than you being identified in it with it, which makes you a great leader
Mm.
by default because you're not even trying to lead. You're actually running away from it.
Mm.
Hilarious to think, well, if that turns out to be your movie, oh my God, your documentary, like chasing the leader. And you're having this person running away and, but, you know, Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
In many ways, it's like alone on your own. It's like, get out. I don't want it. Don't follow, like, don't follow me. Don't listen to me.
Yeah.
But that brand is like, It's kind of really, really
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, we'll see. And in the catch 22 of it is at the same time, I'm not trying to close anyone off. I'm not trying to close you off. I'm not trying to close off the possibility of leadership itself happening through me. I'm just, I'm so aware of the shadow, because I've been there, of thinking that I'm separate, better than I have more information, or that I have figured out the game. It, it puts me in a place that I don't want to go into. So when asking about like, well, what do you see? It's like I can only talk about what I'm currently seeing, not what do I see, meaning like, here's the prescription that you need, because I don't know.
Which is so cool because what you see, you don't have to explain any longer, but you do see it. Like, and there's no, you can't understand what is happening everywhere, right? So let me give you the example how I believe in love and how I believe in humanity, humane qualities in people. I can't really collect 8 billion souls and tell them everybody has it
Mm,
or this is the right. So, but it's the layer, it's like the skin, it's my pigment that makes me Caucasian, right? It's like it's part of me, and everything, it's everything out of me, even my smell and my body odor. It has to do with the pigment, right? So it's like it operate everything that comes out of you passes through that pigment of yours, and pigment of your understanding of collective uh, programming.
mm,
Maybe you'll get there even more the more you age,
sure.
right? But there's the pigment, right? Do you know what I mean when I say it's like, and you don't have to be, there's no arrogance speaking out of it, but there's a specific filter that comes through that pigment that now ends up being completely different verbiage and different
Mm,
storytelling and art.
mm, yeah. Well, what you're sharing, I'm looking down at the gift here. He's talking about branding, and he says the art itself. Well, he's saying it lies beyond words, whether you're music, art, science, or the human voice. It's beyond words. The art itself carries the frequency encoded within it, but the frequency lies well beyond the words, colors, or tones themselves, meaning the art. In other words, all human expression is really nothing but branding. If you release the right brand at the right time, you will have a huge influence. And it's truly the heart that separates the shadow from the gift. And in our current stage of evolution, the heart is the hottest frequency there is. And I think that's what you're pointing to is like the coloring, like the pigment, I think of color. The coloring of like it's the filter of transmission. It's actually the frequency of our heart, right? It's the experience whatever the heart has experienced and is the stories that it's wanting to share.
Yeah. And for this specific gift, like that knowing of the collective programming that we're living in. So when your heart speaks and understands, it's like almost like perfect blend of the music and the frequency that comes out.
Mm. So
Yeah.
beautiful. So you're excited about the gift, and then he calls you out. Hmm. And then you brought up in
I was
the
laughing.
early stages, like the understanding. So we could jump into that paradox. Um, to the 30.
And can I just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
close the
Go ahead.
gift for um there's this last sentence that is really, really important. And if somebody is to ask you, how do you drop into the heart and operate out of the heart? One of those that you can't really just explain. It is only, and Richard writes this, it is only those ready to make the leap into the heart who will inherit the huge benefits coming to us all. Of course, this is an invitation. Go to the heart immediately, right? So, but the go to the heart is through the door of
Hmm.
vulnerability and also the truth of who you are. And to be able to see yourself, you have to be able to learn of your capacity to see within yourself. You have to be able to see everything, all of the parts, the dark and the light, and face it and face it and face it. And there is no one way to get there, and nobody's gonna like, but there's no one way to get there, and there's no one time that you get there. And the matter of fact is that nobody is going to just ignore it when it happens, and it's natural occurrence. And I would even go further a step and say, but in many ways, a lot of people are operating from the heart already. And that is to be reflected in the closest relationships. And one of them is parent child, for example. The other one is you as a child with your parents in the moments of crisis, right? So just today, I met the lady who walked me through her mother passing, and how 6 months later it's still very present in her body, and 6 months later she is in such shock and grief that she doesn't see the pleasure anywhere. Pleasure meaning no longer joy, there's no creation, everything is shut off in her body. So it's just like, I don't know how long this take this. I'm just doing just for the sake of doing. I don't know what I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing. And the grief itself is one of the lessons to calm down inside of you and start slowly accepting a lot of it, accepting the parts, accepting the ending, accepting the, the doomsday, or the dark side, or the ending, or the death of our, and just the decay
Mm.
of us and our bodies, right? So it's very, very scary to do that. And how do they call it? Dark night of the soul?
Mm.
I don't know what that means. I don't think I experienced that dark night of the soul, but did I experience the moments when I felt lonely, rejected, abandoned, shameful, isolated? Like so many. And rather than ignoring them, it's like they're part of us, right? So that's the vulnerability. It's like being so raw and so woundy and so cut, like you're looking at your cut with the blood coming out, and it hurts, but it also has ability to heal. Exactly, it just takes time. So I just want to say this, it's really, really important to be aware of the two different operating intellects in our mind, two different tools that we can use, and to come to that awareness of what side of you you're operating from. Is it the heart, or is it the body? And is it the pain, or is it the pleasure? Those are the
Hmm.
parts of the mind. Anyway, just wanted to close that out. I thought that was really
Yeah,
cool.
no, that was lovely. And your Substack today or yesterday about vulnerability was super on point. I don't know if you had like planned it with this or if it came up in just part of the experience, but I was like really, uh,
These things just come up.
yeah, yeah.
What did you feel?
It reminded me of, I think either last week or no, 29. I shared with you how I had like a reopening with, with my marriage with Carly about like, hey, I'm going to show you my heart, all this stuff. And you had kind of given the advice, maybe I should go watch it back to really get clear on it. But I think you said something like, it's just about returning to the heart in each moment, no matter what, and then making sure that the other person knows, like, I'm going to be with you, I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm going to be vulnerable myself and share in the heart, but also it doesn't mean I require anything from you in response, meaning I'm going to work with you no matter what, but you're going to see my heart. And it really landed with me, and I took it and started to use that language with Carly because I didn't know how else to express to her, like getting to this point of desperation for me feels like, okay, I'm running out of options. What I what I could do, what I normally would do in the past, is get angry, because how else am I going to show you how much I care? And now I have like a new tool. And so I started saying, I'm here. I'm showing you my heart. I'm being vulnerable, and you're just cutting me. You're just tearing me up into 1,000 pieces, and I'm showing you my heart. And no matter what she came back with, because like she has all this knowledge of like how we used to fight, to know like I know how to get Eric to shut up and stop talking, and she'll say the thing, and then now I'm like, okay, now I'm really showing you my heart. This is really hurting me. And just being able to always go back to that and into that and use that as kind of the platform of engagement, it just diffused so much tension. Like we were heading to the beach one day and she was just not having it. And I'm like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like I want to be vulnerable and I want you to be vulnerable. And when I see something, I don't want to pretend. And I don't want you to act. And I don't want you to do the right thing. And I don't want you to do what you've been trained to do or what you think is right. I want to see your heart. And she was not having it. She thought it was a threat. So I just kept going back to like, I'm showing you my heart. Like I'm being vulnerable. Listen, like that's all I'm doing here. I'm opening up. I'm opening up. And eventually she came around, but it just took it was so cool for me to see there's a path that's not anger, and then there's also it was either anger or like complete defeat, complete like fatigue, overwhelmed defeat. Like there's nothing I can say or do to change her mind, and I'm actually being vulnerable and getting hurt for doing so. So the logical solution then is to shell up and figure out some internal place where I can go and be protected. And instead, just being like, no, like I know the answer. It's to open my heart more each time. And and then making this very clear, because if this leads to us breaking up, but my heart is open, then I'll take it. And it's like that's grief, right? You're like you mentioned, finding the grief in the story that is defining us, but letting it open more vulnerability and getting to that place and saying it out loud. She's like, wow, this isn't really about like whether we're doing it right or whether it's not really about needs anymore. Maybe this is truly just about being vulnerable with each other, because I'm like, let's just establish this foundation for everything to grow, but we first need to get there and just keep going there. So I wanted to share that happened. That happened far enough back that I didn't start bawling here on the podcast, but I figured you'd appreciate it.
Wow. So meeting, okay, question. Was she able to meet you in that vulnerability eventually?
Yeah, she was able to. Uh, it took about a day to come at the intensity that I was at, about a day, but about an hour later, yeah, and maybe the story would help. We got to the beach, and it was like, okay, we're gonna do it, and it was not as volatile. It wasn't like storming off, or I'm clearly mad at my spouse, and we're at this beach together, and poo-hoo, like this attitude. So it was like more neutral, but it still wasn't clear like that she got what I was after. Um, but at the beach, we're sitting there, and I took the boys one by one in my arms and just held them like this, and just loved the shit out of them, like one at a time. Because I'm like, okay, I'm so frustrated. Normally, I like bring it in, and I ball up, and it's the lack of connection is what it actually is. That's what leads me to those dark places for me personally. So I actually need to outpour. And if I can't outpour into her, then hey, grateful I have 3 kids because I can do it this way. And I found like a comedic way to say it, and it was like so stupid, like so dad joke humor that I knew it would like lighten the mood, and then also I'm able to express. So um, I said I have infinite love to give, but I said it in a stupid way. I said I have infinite lerve to gerve. And I just kept saying this over and over while I'm like tickling them with my beard and tickling them one by one, and I just kept saying it. And then I took 3 of them, one in each arm and the other one holding my neck, all the way back to the car, and I was just saying, "I've infinite love to Gerv," like loudly, and Carly's back there, and I think it just helped her like see like, okay, my just because my husband's heart's open doesn't mean he's an emotional wreck, and I have to be masculine and carry the weight, because that's the story that was happening. It was what I'm showing her is like,
Mm.
watch me be vulnerable and still be masculine. It's not, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. And that's when I'm the best. That's actually when I'm serving the masculine role more truthfully than if I go through, step 1, be tough, step 2, don't cry, step 3, pay the bills, always carry the groceries, etc., etc. Anyway.
It's beautiful. That's when you carry your masculine role the most. That's your truth. That's your blueprint. That's your signature in that season of your life, in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so cool because it's inviting. And the reason why I asked is she meet because it's very scary. It's
Yeah.
like intimidating to get to that level of vulnerability, and it takes time. It's like not everybody gets there fast. There's no bullet train that you enter and you just go directly there. It takes the regulation of the body, the slowness, the heart rate, the beat, the synchronicity, the what's it called, the coherence of the body and the heart. It's like it takes
Mm-hmm.
time to slow down. And then the best part is that vulnerability is inviting for it invites the heart in, right? If you if you hold that frequency for someone, it breaks the mind. The the mind will kneel eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how much power it has.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, so
Yeah.
cool. So
Well, and
cool.
thank you, because it was inspired by you and through you. So thank you.
I mean, thanks for life, for giving us these lessons.
Right.
uh, you know, and who wants who wants to have vulnerability, walk into the party and totally like ruin be the party ruiner, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like there's no you can't teach this, right? And you can't even give the example of it. You just have to go through it. I don't know. I'm not even sure when vulnerability shows up. It's like, oh, but you're here and I'm not ready. And why now? How long? Like I have a lot of
Mm.
questions. And do you have to hear this much? What's your message? Be clear. What do you need from me? And I would do anything not to talk to it. To this day, I would pseudo eros, right? So I would go pseudo. I would eat sweets. I would go to the gym. I would attend different events rather than sit in it. But where the this morning's Substack showed up was I actually timed myself to sit with it for 15 minutes. I was like, just 15 freaking minutes. Like, just sit with it freaking 15. And it was 7:09, I remember. And by the time I calculated how long it's been, so my mind goes like until 7:15, which is only 6 minutes. Just sit with it until 7:15. And then I sat with it, and then I just looked at the clouds, and I was like, and I just tuned in. I was like, what is it? Show me, tell me. I want to feel it. And then my mind started coming up with ideas and stories but not the resistance stories, not the menu of why not, why not, and blame. It has nothing to do with anybody else, anything else in the world, just processing inside. And that's where that story came up from. So it actually is a pocket to enter, to tap pendulating for 15 minutes. I only did it 6. And I was like, okay, I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go. I can't sit in it. And it is so uncomfortable that it's comic. It's actually, I am laughing at myself because I bet you couldn't even sit for 15 minutes to sit with it, right? So it takes a lot of practice, but it also coming back to it in dedication. It's your guest that lives inside of you all
Mm,
the time.
mm. And do you find, because you're someone who does go there, like you, this is part of your coaching practice, both as a receiver and a giver, and you get there with me sometimes in our podcast, and you can access depth. Like I know, like as a Pisces, I know you can. So is it actually like, I guess the question I'm kind of pointing to, do you feel more resistance when you're potentially the most vulnerable? Or what about, yeah, see, curious.
There are definitely, okay, let me cough. They're different, they weigh differently. They never weigh the
Mm,
same. And if I weigh resistance, like I'll give you a really good example. This has been on my mind. Only cry how much it hurts. And I keep asking myself, but does it really hurt? Does the loneliness, where is it hurting me? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so lonely. Like this thing starts coming up with, oh my God, I'm so lonely. I'm going to die alone. Well, it brings on the fears. It's like the moment it starts, the moment there's a list long. And, like antisocial club, I'm the first one to organize antisocial me. And I don't want to deal with people. It's like total, not me. It is not true. But it starts going, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm spiraling, right? And then I was like, okay, am I really lonely? And then I sat down and I was like, am I really feeling loneliness? And if so, how do I feel it in my body? And then what happens is that there's this box in the chest that showed up, and the box just stood there as a weight and as a heaviness. And then my mind took me off of it because it wanted to defend me, and it resisted to feel it. And then I was already, okay, I gotta do all of these things and run away. And oh my God, I'm hungry and everything just did not sit. And I was like, but wait, let's go back to this feeling and let me see, is it still here? And I was like, oh, but you actually feel heavy. And I don't know what you show up as in a child frame, phrase, vision, right? I don't know what you show up, but right now you just feel very heavy as a box here on my, let's see how long is you gonna be there? And it comes back down to just wait and just chemical reaction of the body and processing emotion through the body and the box. And when I go back to it, if you ask me now, where is my loneliness? I'm giggling about it because it's no longer here sitting in my body, right? So it has a different weight when it comes, but it comes as a resistance, as a narration of my story, and then I feel it in the body, and then it sits there or it's not there, but it's actively present. So, I went to a park yesterday and I had this beautiful idea to write. We agreed I'm going to write a program, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And then I sat in silence again alone, and then I felt the loneliness in it, but this time loneliness was so exciting. I looked at the cactus. It was this massive cactus, like a it's like a botanical garden. And I'm laying down. I was like, my body, my skin is buzzing, buzzing, and I feel the top. And I just stood, and I had the sitting chair for 2 or 3, and I just laid on a chair, and I had a coffee there. I had the music, the Zen spa music inside, some Buddha sounds or Indian sounds. And then I looked and I was like, oh my God, I'm having the buzzing. Something is passing through me as an energy, and I feel good. This is how loneliness felt in that moment. So it has a very different forms how it shows up. I just call it like that, to a point where I'm like, is it really loneliness? I'm questioning
Hmm.
it because it's just some sort of trans uh trans body transiting through my something is transiting through my body, shall I say it that way? Did I answer?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you.
But I think the key is to let it happen, allow it space and time. And what you said earlier, it's like allow space. How you allow others space, allow yourself space.
Mm. Hmm.
And are you able to do that when, I mean, you have such a busy life? It's easier for me because I'm very much on my own in silence, so I can tune in back into me. But when you have a full room of souls actively bending your reality, like how do you do that? How are you able to do that?
Hmm. Can I ask you to say that a different way?
When these waves come through your body,
Mm.
and when you tap into your heart, let's say you tap into your heart and your heart like radiates something, some sort of energy, are you how do you stay inside your heart without allowing the external environment, and whoever is in that environment, to bend it or to amend your intention to stay in the heart when something is happening, like your vulnerability, for example? Good example.
Hmm. Well, I would say I don't have that many experiences. Like I haven't done a lot of like workshops or group where I mean, it's happened. Yeah, that's tricky. Because in the one sense, like the vulnerability is it can be magnetic, but can also be threatening, depending on where someone else is. So if someone feels threatened, they might take a stance, even if it's just body language of like belittling or ignoring or demeaning. But if you're magnetic, then someone all of a sudden is in your bubble, like pretending to do something else and um, flirting around the edges. But uh, yeah, I'm not sure directly how to answer that. I almost want to go to humor and like I've been given like a resting bitch face passed down from my dad. So as long as I'm not like it's just smiling, beaming, then people tend to assume that I'm not in a great mood and they don't approach me or interrupt me or ask me something. But yeah, I don't know. That seems more a question that you might have some experience in answering.
Well, but you're doing it, which is great. Your example was like I was able to stay no matter what in the vulnerability of me and show up again and again and again because I was able to stick with it,
Mm.
right? So, and that is like it almost, once you feel how that feels like, you kind of want to stay there.
Mm.
And I think that's what draws you back into, oh, now I'm learning how this feels like and what is changing about environment around me by just tapping back into the heart through the door of vulnerability. And somewhere there also sits the truth of you.
Mm.
So I discovered uh, recently.
For you, is this a story? Is this a lead
Mhm.
in?
It's unbeatable. And when truth, it almost wipes all the words, all the meanings, all the definitions, all the structures. It's like, oh, but this is actually my truth. And to get to that, there's so much questioning. There's so much peeling off the onion. There's so much vulnerability of facing me, my weakness, my fears, my desires, my possessiveness, like name it. You can, all the traits that, like we possess, but, we don't really act or react to it, right? And once that is, like received or almost like released, and for that, you need either another person to release it. So, whatever, coach or your partner. Once that's released, like clarity just comes. Like there's a truth, the bottom of the heart that comes in and says, but in the end of the day, this is who I am and this is who you are. And I'm able to accept you, but I'm also accepting me without bending me. And when that clarity comes in, everything is wiped off. It's unbendable. It's clear. And this has been my first time actually being crystally clear on part of me that I wasn't. And it does come through the door of vulnerability and acceptance and voicing the fears and speaking it out loud. Um, and it's the heart. And how I asked you earlier, what are the qualities of the heart? That we have inside of our hearts. They're different probably for other people, but one of them for me is the truth, my truth.
Hmm.
Big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, really good. Um, what did you think about this? Reminded me of Blavatsky a little bit. Um, Arrogance represents the male characteristic, and humility represents the female characteristic. And such terms describe the universal polarity of being rather than specifics to men and women. One could even say that all energy behaves in an arrogant, probing way, whereas all matter is humble and submissive. And he says,
What about
removing
Blavatsky?
the morality of how we view it allows both expressions, arrogance and humility, to have their own integrity and beauty. And this is like, so he's kind of opening the door to the paradox itself. What were your thoughts?
Where the mind doesn't want to live, the higher mind. And that's the 30th. Was it 30th?
Yeah, desire.
The paradox
Mm-hmm.
where a higher mind lives and loves and adores paradoxes. Paradox meaning the duality, the two sides of
Mm-hmm.
something, as clearly uh, as clearly masculine and feminine, as clearly differentiated and separated, right? But yet they're both together. They must work together. I don't know. What did you think of it?
Um, it's interesting because, um, gosh, because there's an element of like matter and form not really being like the quantum level of understanding would say that neither or both. So in one sense, it's pointing back to the paradox, but it's easier for the mind to accept the paradox on extremes. I think early on we kind of talked about like um, typically you think of shadow and then gift and then city as moving up levels, but it's actually closer to a loop, and that when we get to the end of city, then we find ourselves at the beginning of shadow, and it's a bit more of like much like Richard talks about the gene keys profile being holotropic, how any one activity can change the whole profile. In this same sense, I feel that the quantum understanding, because he talks about matter and form, and it tempts the mind to have solid concepts, and he says like we're using language of duality meaning either or, to express something that lies beyond the duality. And I enjoyed this one. It just makes me think about Blavatsky, the incarnation of creation itself into matter, form, and energy, and how it interplays. And then I get all cosmic and quantum and yeah.
Yeah. Don't know about that part about Blavatsky, but
You're not sure?
it's calling us again. She's calling. She's been calling. Interesting. And it does change. It's just changes the perspective. It gives a different viewpoint. Um, bird's eye, the frog's eye point, right? So it's like it's an angle. It's just an angle. All just to get to a point where we actually don't care which angle, what,
Mm.
to get to this city, right? So it's like when you get to this city, it's like you really actually don't want to change the world. You actually do not want to change anything about it. That's what he's saying, because the city is truly humble. It has no agenda. It is not necessarily interested in freeing people from their illusions, even though it may unwittingly do so. Such a being realizes that it is not possible to influence anyone in this
Mm.
world. Meaning, you and I are giving so many angles and we always agree on, but we're full of shit anyway, right? So it's like, but in the end of the day, it does not matter what we say, what they say, what we have to say and have experienced. It's just, it doesn't matter.
Mm.
Well, it matters, but it doesn't
Mm.
really, right? It doesn't matter what such a person does in life. They are content to leave the world exactly as it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it's, and as I'm sitting here contemplating
I love it.
the call to leadership and your ability to compliment me, like of course I appreciate it. And recognizing gifts is important, I think, because it brings them out in people. So I say thank you for that as well. Did I lose my mic? Can you hear me? Okay, good. I keep bumping this
You're
thing.
here.
Anyway, um, yeah, it's the temptation to think that the path, like you have the path out to something else, but really, like the leader. So when I feel like people are like, you could be a leader in whatever you're doing, or you could lead people, I'm like, well, I'm going to lead them out of the burning house into a burning building, or like on the burning street. It's, I'm like, it's still always changing. It's still, and in some sense, it's always burning. In some sense, it's um, a ride of the range of emotions, experiences, and possibilities, right? So, but you kind of pointed to something where I'm like, well, I could get down with that, which is leading people back to this as being perfect, and like that awareness as communicating a sense of calm and peace and stillness that, I mean, will it help people? I don't know if it'll help people, but it can certainly provide space, and space can provide the ability to change. So potentially that's something that I would like put my name behind. Potentially, I'm still kind of like nervous to do so.
takes
Yeah.
time to mature, to ripe. But if we are a music box that produces music through the words and the sounds and the vocal cords, right? So if I'm a music box and I'm about to put the music on there, would you rap anger, prostitution, money, and drugs, or would you, like be opera singer? That's different. That's the difference, right? So, and I sent you many. Well, Maria Callas, I listened to her again yesterday, and I was like, but the agony of life and love is literally coming out through her voice.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
The openness and rawness of the love story and sadness and loneliness, and she chose and was guided to sing these exact pieces. And when you listen to entire opera, Norma, Carmen, they're all love stories. Story of love, unreturned love, love of Romeo and Juliet, right? Unrealized love, a love that two couldn't understand, couldn't handle not to have and to have, right? So it's like there's like the voice that comes out from the heart comes out as a masterpiece of life,
Mm.
and you can't help but not to be in awe of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has many forms.
Mm.
There's there's a band that I listen to now and enjoy a lot. They're called Sleep Token, and they're a little bit heavier, but they kind of blend genres quite a bit. And one of their songs, it starts with a music box, and he talks about, so they're a heavier band and they wear masks on stage to hide their identities. And the lead singer, he talks about his intent in doing so was to emphasize the music and de-emphasize the hero worship of it. Um, so he starts the song with a music box to kind of signify like he's the ballerina in the music box that's playing, like you're like being controlled. He's the puppet of what you desire as like his audience or the fans. And then it gets into like quite a heavy um expression through like the anger, the frustration, like I'm being so vulnerable, and then you guys are just, because what happens is the fans or some of the fans are trying to reveal the identities to get a rise out of them. So they'll be at a concert and they'll shout like their real names or whatever. And he's like what have I created? Hindsight's 2020, because this is what I wanted. I wanted you to sing the top line of the song and not focus on my identity. But what I did is I made the worship out of the thing. I made worship out of like the whole scheme of it, of like we don't show our identity, so it led to this like higher level of obsession and the paradox in playing out that way. So um I just want to share that because of course there's still levels of attunement to the heart in music, and a lot of modern music has been diluted with commercialism, materialism, etc. But there's still artists in every genre that are finding ways to express their heart through it. Um, and that goes back to like this life, this life in its many forms and how it is expressed through all of our voices is perfect. How could we change it? Because even the frustration about the materialism leads to artists who have that as a base, as a platform to speak out in their frustration. Like, it's all, what else is there to say? It's, we get in the city and we become inert. Nothing left to say. The words don't quite carry the full meaning of the experience.
Yeah. Very true. And as you were talking, I thought about Linkin Park. I thought about Amy Winehouse. I thought
Mm-hmm.
about, like, um, gosh, like even Marilyn
Right.
Manson, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, but it's like there's expressions, and expressions come as disturbance, as the fear, right? But speaking as the fear, as the panic, as the polarity, as the statementized, politicized, propagandized, and like different expressions through the art form and the voice. But it's when what I was trying to say is like when you tap into the heart, the way the art comes out, you're right, in any gender is different. Like there's some sort of difference between forced information through the art form versus the information that was expression of the purity of the heart and the truth of that individual. So in this context, what I meant is how I can't see you like doing 50 Cent style if you were to choose to go into it, but I can see you doing Bjork or Cranberries, which, by the way, I have to tell you something. I forgot. I know we're running out of time. But when I was in the workshop in May, and what's interesting is that we did the
Mm.
karaoke, and just 2, 3 weeks ago, we did the karaoke, and on the karaoke, which I have terrible voice, I'm terrible in karaoke, so embarrassed, but I always do it, and I do it, and I think I'm good. That's the best part. Is like I think I'm like Lady Gaga style, and I ripped my vocal cords like on the karaoke. But this one was interesting because it was the last song that we sang, and everybody was already gone, and it was Zombie. Wow. It was three of us, loud, and I sang it, and I sang. We three of us, we were so mad through the words. I just get chills. And it was such a anger that was coming through the song, from her, through the song, through us, through me. And I was shouting, and I would just like have this like physical expressions of anger, and this is not how it's supposed to be. And I was in despair and like crying, and like I couldn't believe what came through me. And I was like, oh, I had chills all over. I got cold sweat everywhere, and I was panting with my legs, and I was just like hitting and hitting and hitting, and my voice was shaking. It was another, it was so powerful. Then I redid the same exact thing in my car when I came back in LA. I was like, I need to re-listen to this song. I knew this song for so long. It had never had transmission like that in my life. And then I did it in the car. Oh my God. I was driving, and as I was driving, I was screaming anger through the song, screaming for justice, for the good life, for the, can you see it, what you're doing? And it was just total demonstration. Wow. And now I'm afraid to listen to it because it evokes this level of transmission through me. And I don't know if you heard it last lately, but if you listen to it in silence with a complete like vacuum, and you really tap into her voice and into relating to the world now, it's like, wow, it is so much power
Mm.
in it. It was, I could not believe it. It left me
Mm. What's
speechless.
the song again?
Zombie.
By Cranberries? Mm.
Yeah. Oh, wow. 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 That's the heart. Heart speaks pain too.
Mm-hmm.
No, let me rephrase. Heart speaks of pain
Mm.
too, not only the beauty.
Mm.
And because touch speech is pure transmission, it uses words to indicate the path beyond words. Like that.
Beautiful. Mm.
How are you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good. Feeling good, good. Oh. Okay. Next time,
Good.
32. Actual halfway. Failure, preservation,
Oh,
veneration.
I have this one.
And this, yeah, this is in your pearl sequence, right? This is.
Is it? Hmm.
Is it?
All right. I don't know.
Oh.
It's somewhere. Let me see. I have. Okay, I'll tell you. Yeah, it's my core.
Ah, okay. Excellent. All right.
Perfect. All right.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Bye
Goodbye.
bye. Sayonara.
Sayonara. Ciao.